Welcome to Don't Chuck It Up, the podcast where we help students and families navigate the wild journey of the college search and applying to colleges without breaking a sweat. I'm your host, Chuck, and today we're talking about the world of dance. Yep, we're going to talk about what we need to do to be a great dancer in college and how do we find those colleges. And to help me out, my guest today is Kathy Hain-DeYoung, an independent educational consultant and a specialist in dance. So, Kathy, welcome to the Don't Chuck It Up show.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk about all things dance.
When you said that you are a specialist in dance, I said I need to talk to you because this is a growing area of interest and it's a little bit confusing. So I said, why not have someone who this is your wheelhouse, this is your favorite thing to do. So I appreciate you for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
So why don't you spend a few moments here and introduce yourself, help our listeners understand who you are and kind of what you do.
So I'm an independent educational consultant. I work with high school students finding their path into college. I started as a traditional IEC, helping just the average high school student apply to college. And I have two daughters that grew up as dancers. And so I got immersed in the world of competitive dance. I was actually on my high school dance team. So I enjoy dancing myself, although I was never formally trained. But my girls grew up dancing. And as they grew up and got to high school age, a lot of their friends wanted assistance with applying to college. And so my clientele turned from just, the traditional high school student applying to college with no, specific niche, to a very highly niched practice, working with dancers that pursue different tracks in college. So they are applying to BFA dance majors at highly selective conservatory style programs. Some of them want to do a BFA or a BA in dance, but want the opportunity to study in another academic area. And then the path that has become very popular recently is the college dance team path. So a lot of dancers that decide that they don't want to necessarily dance professionally, but they don't want their dance career to end when they graduate high school, will often go the dance team path. They can continue doing like games and sidelines with the athletics department, or they can do competitive dance and compete on the national stage. So I help all those dancers find their passion in college via one of those paths.
Awesome. So you're working with everything from the tutus and the point shoes to the tap shoes to the pom-poms to everything in between. So you've got a lot of different styles of dancers out there. And as I said, this is really an area that has become super popular. And I'm wondering, are there certain areas of dance that you see as really standing out and being more popular? And are there areas that you wish you'd see more dancers in?
It's really interesting. If you look at the classically ballet trained dancers, you will still see them trying to find very specific programs, and there's very few of them that offer BFA in ballet. But what is interesting with dancers is a lot of them are very left brain and right brain.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for the opportunity to not only be creative and develop their artistry, but they want to be challenged in the classroom as well. So it's interesting trying to find the perfect fit for a ballerina that wants to study engineering. So
well, and I bet that also comes up because, dance is a competitive world post-college, and I'm sure this is a topic on many of the parents' minds who are listening to this podcast, is that, what happens if my student is unable to get an offer from a dance company or land a professional dance career? What can happen? And as you and I both know, the biggest challenge with fine and performing arts or even athletics is what happens if you're injured and, you have an
Right.
injury that really halts your career. So you really do see a growing trend in dancers that are also wanting to study something else?
100%. I think that is probably, if they're not going for a second major, they're certainly looking for that minor, or they're looking for a career track such as pre-med, pre-PT, something like that, that they can incorporate with that.
Is it possible? Like, I'm trying to think about, what about like dance and engineering? I feel like those two are some of the most, very rigid academic programs. Dance is very, this is what you take, this is it's very linear, and engineering is also very linear, but in a completely different direction. So I'm going, is it possible to do, say, dance and mechanical engineering?
It's possible. It takes a lot of work trying to find the right school to do it at. Um, it it will probably not be a BFA and an engineering degree. It might be a BA in dance, and some of them are not as rigorous and requiring as much in terms of rehearsal performance time that it can be done. What a lot of dancers will do that are looking at very academically challenging undergraduate degrees is they will often seek out other clubs or opportunities, companies on campus
Oh,
to engage in the dance community and the performing arts community on campus as kind of their extracurricular. And there are some really good, particularly in the ballet, in the dance contemporary areas for companies that are really solid. Some of them are actually faculty run ballet companies, contemporary modern companies on campus where they can go for their engineering or their nursing degree and still have an opportunity to do performing arts.
yeah, I have seen that happen myself, where students who are really invested in a certain academic area, and their goal is not to be a principal dancer, they just want to
Right.
be maybe part of an ensemble. So they have found a dance company or even an outside dance agency or group that's near the college where they
Right.
can participate in that and keep up their dance athleticism and their ability to do those things while still being involved with the college. So you don't
Right.
have to major in it if you want to continue doing dance. I do want to take a little bit of a definition here. So, what is the difference between a BFA and a BA in dance? I'm sure a lot of people are confused by those terminologies and what that could
Yeah.
mean when they're looking at colleges.
Right. So a BFA, a Bachelor of Fine Art, is a more intense dance training curriculum that is focused on the pre-professional dancer with the intention of having a dance career. So the when you think about a college 4-year college degree, usually requiring about 120 credit hours, most majors will be in the 40, 50 credit hour range to complete the curriculum within the major. For a BFA program, it could be look more like 90 credit hours. So it is very highly focused on the dance training and preparation for a career. You're just doing the BFA curriculum and then any required courses that are needed to get the degree from the 4-year institution. So it leaves very little room in the conservatory type programs for anything else, perhaps a minor, but usually not a double major. Now, a lot of colleges have recognized the fact that these kids want something more.
Yeah.
They want to be able to have a some skill set to fall back on, or education to fall back on if the dance thing doesn't work out. So they will reduce the number of credit hours that are required for the BFA. So I've seen BFAs with as few as 65, 70 credit hours, which would leave room for a double major. So that's what the BFA looks like.
Mm-hmm.
The BA would be more of a traditional major, 30, 35, 40 credit hours, depending on the program. And it usually does not have a lot of requirements in terms of performances. So it's not going to require you to spend all your evenings in a dance studio or on the stage rehearsing. So those are more in terms of the curriculum, they're going to be a combination of in-studio dance technique training, and then also partially more in the history of dance, more of a classroom setting,
Yep.
dance and culture type
Mhm.
classes. And so it's not as intense. The kids still do get their time in the studio, but it's more of an overall dance studies type.
Yeah, you got to learn that history and the terminology and where
Mhm.
dance has come from. Just because you watch Dancing with the Stars doesn't mean that you've learned everything, so you need to go beyond that. I really do appreciate you laying out the difference between the BFA. And so for the fine and performing visual and performing arts, so that's dance, theater, and art, the BFA really is about 2/3 to 3/4 of your coursework
Mhm.
is in your discipline, and there's a very small amount of stuff that is outside of your direct training for
Right.
that area. Where if students are looking for a bit more flexibility, it's really a Bachelor of Arts program and sometimes even a Bachelor of Science program where you're doing, maybe a third of your coursework in your major, and then you have a lot more flexibility for a double major or a minor or other areas. Same thing for those who've listened to my music ones. The Bachelor of Music degree is really a
Mhm.
pre-professional training. 3/4 of your work is music and other stuff is less than that. So it's really the student and the family needs to talk about, okay, how much are you willing to dedicate to this? Are you ready to grind and be a professional trained person? Then you might want to look at a BFA program. If you're just wanting to, but that's intense. I have a Bachelor of Music degree, and I'm telling you, it's intense training when you're in those types of programs. This is not for the
Yeah.
faint of heart. And I
Right.
think dancers need to think about, okay, I know you love going to dance class and you love performing, but can you do it 5, 6 hours a day between
Right.
classes and training and rehearsals? And like, it's a lot when you're doing a
Mhm.
BFA program.
Mhm. For sure. And you're absolutely right on the Bachelor of Science as well. In the dance world, the Bachelor of Science takes more of a focus on the body and the mechanics of dance. Um, Popular programs are often called dance science degrees,
Hmm.
because a lot of dancers will use this as preparation for a pre-physical therapy trajectory into graduate school.
Yeah.
So that is something that is also very popular. Most dancers have had injuries and have done physical therapy.
Yep.
And so they understand that world, and it's something that they see as kind of tangential to dance that they can perhaps work with dancers in the future. And so that dance science degree is usually a BS degree, and that's a very popular track for a lot of deans.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you bring that up as another area because that might actually be something that a student is specifically looking for. They might go,
Hmm.
"Oh, that's a career? I could do that? That would be really interesting." Same thing
Hmm.
that we're seeing a lot of these BFA programs now adding a minor in arts administration or something
Right.
in that area for people who love dance and hope to open their own dance school or studio or training area. Colleges are now responding to that and providing the coursework, the training, and the internships available to really help students get the leg up and get ready to be an administrator and maybe not a principal dancer. So not everyone has to go to college to become a principal dancer. That's not the sole thing that you need to be.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing that the popular career choices, they say, well, I want to. That what they say is the kids will say, I want to get a business degree.
Oh.
I'm like, well, what do you want to do with the business degree? Well, I want to open a dance studio.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, well, the business degree is probably, I know what you're trying to get at, but maybe
Right.
it's more of an entrepreneurship degree than a business degree. Like, you don't necessarily want to go work in accounting at a Fortune 500 company, right? That's not your goal.
Right.
Let's find a way for you to develop the skills to open that studio. It's going to look more like an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and that can even be just a minor in something.
Right.
It doesn't have to be
Right.
a full major because a lot of times that's learning through internships and connecting with other dance leaders in your community. You don't have to get the full-on Bachelor of Business Administration or something like that type of degree in order to run your own business.
Or they can, pick something like marketing or a lot of these social media type degrees that are now popping up are good programs to mash up with dance if that's their intent.
Absolutely. So you don't need to spend 4 years studying accounting in order to run your own, dance studio. When should parents and students start thinking about this whole, I want to possibly dance in college? When do you start evaluating and figuring out what type of dance program you should get into and how to figure out what dance programs out there might fit a student for college?
I think there's a couple different answers there depending on the dancer and the path that they want to take. For the dancer that wants to do the BFA route, they're probably more on a traditional college prep track and timing, with the exception of making sure that they are getting some good exposure in summer intensives and, the summer between 9th and 10th and 11th. That's going to, if they have the opportunity to do those programs on the college campus, that's going to be very informative for them. But in terms of putting together a college list for a BFA or BA in dance, I'm doing that in 11th grade, maybe, a little towards the beginning, more so than, at the end of 11th grade. I want them to get out there and see the schools, get a chance to perhaps sit in on a class or take a class at a college and get those experiences so they understand what is it like to dance in college. It's completely different than what they might be doing in their dance studio. On the dance team side, this is a whole nother animal because what's happening in the industry right now is this whole idea of recruitment is coming into play for college dance teams. So some of the top teams in the country would be like an Ohio State or University of Minnesota. They compete nationally, win something just about every year, and they are getting the top talent in the country. And they are looking at that talent as early as middle school. So it's important if that's the path that a dancer wants to go on, we need to start the process of evaluating them, their skills, their technique, earlier. 9th grade is probably a good time for dancers that are looking for those elite level teams. And then helping them identify, what type of college experience that they want, because that's still important. One of our mottos is college first, then dance team. Because as with any dancer, injuries can happen. Things can happen with families where you don't want to be on the other side of the country. You've got to find the right college fit first. It's hard to do that with a 9th grader or a 10th grader even, right? They don't know what they want. So we have to start giving them some education and some guidance earlier so that when these recruiters from the University of Idaho show up, and, what do they make of that? What do they do with that at that time? They're 9th, 10th grade. They get excited about the idea about being recruited, but they need to really make sure they're focusing on that academic piece as well. And they need to understand that in 9th and 10th grade, because you're not getting into college on an athletic scholarship for dance, unless you're going NAIA, which is a different animal. But college first, then dance team. So with the dance team thing and the recruitment activities that are happening now, it's really important to start engaging earlier with those dancers.
Well, and I really feel that this shows how much dance is similar to being recruited for a D1 sport or even to be recruited for another fine and performing art. What I think parents and students don't understand that for these very top programs, so in the football world, the University of Michigan is starting to offer football, roster recruitment spots to 8th and 9th graders. It's really starting early and earlier. Same thing with the Southern Conference and for the SEC. Those football programs are going younger and younger. Dance is the same way. If people just think that, oh, I can just walk on to the University of Minnesota. University of Minnesota has a high acceptance rate. It's not that hard to get in. I could just walk on and it'll be fine. I'm like, no, that is one of the top dance programs in the country. And they already have a pipeline. Like they're already, working with students for years and years and years. So if you really want to go to those top hyper-selective programs, you're going to start earlier. Same thing if you're wanting to go to an ultra-selective school. You don't just walk on to Harvard or walk on to Yale. Like that's something that happens over many years of preparation and training. Now, that being said, there are lots of dance opportunities that are out there. So if you don't fit into one of those hyper-selective programs, I'm sure there are plenty of places out there, as long as a student is geographically open, that they could find a place that they could dance.
Yeah, and that goes on the dance major side and the dance team side. Absolutely, there's a place for everybody.
I also love your point that really starting with the college fit first. I do the same thing with my athletes because, as you have alluded to and I've said before, injuries do happen. And I don't want a student to be injured and then all of a sudden be like, well, I have to transfer because the only reason I came here was for this dance program or this sport. Now I'm injured, so I need to get the heck out of here. And when I worked at a D1 school, I was shocked at how many athletes that I worked with there that said, well, I need to transfer because this was my only connection here. I'm like, no, you should really fall in love with the college holistically, just like they're falling in love with you holistically. You got to find the fit all the way around, not just the specific dance program. Absolutely. I want to get back to your point about, you said, make sure that your academics are keeping up. I think there's a myth out there that, if you are a premier ballerina, that, the colleges will just ignore your grades. So talk a little bit about how colleges are evaluating students in this process.
I think if we're looking at BFA, BA programs, I think there is some grain of truth to the academics not being as important. If you're at if you're going for BFA in ballet, you're going for ballet. So usually the dance audition is going to have the highest weight in the admission of that student. That being said, it doesn't mean they're ignoring your academics.
Right.
So, you can, as I mentioned, the ballet dancers that I work with are very intelligent and highly academic achieving students. They achieve on all levels.
Yes.
And so when you think about it in terms of that, if it's you against another person for a position in one of those BFA programs, and one of them's got a 4.0 and you've got a 2.8 GPA, guess what? That's going to factor into the decision-making process.
Yeah, and I've experienced that not from dancers, but in my previous life as director of Conservatory of Music admissions. I distinctly remember a student that I'll never forget. Incredible tenor singer, and tenors are, really rare. And so when you find one of those, you're like, oh, this is amazing. And we did an academic review of his transcript, and he was on the academic struggle bus the entire time of high school and really had a hard time academically. And we told him, we said, you are an amazing musician. Your academics, we're worried that you're going to academically fail out if you come to the college, to the conservatory, should I say. So we actually recommended for him to go to a community college and work on beefing up his academic profile, continue his vocal training, and then apply to transfer after a year, because we're just like, you can sing, dude, but academically on paper, you're a little sus.
You got to pass your classes, and they're not going to admit you if they don't think you're going to handle the rigor of their curriculum.
Right. And again, can you be a professional musician and not have a strong academic background? Sure, but your lifespan of as a musician may not be as long, or as a dancer. Like, can you be a professional dancer? We see the TV shows all the time. There are dancers that are recruited that don't have a ton of professional training, but do they have the longevity skills to make it work throughout their entire career? Possibly yes, possibly no.
Yeah. And on the dance team side, I do want to emphasize that you have to get into these colleges on your own academic merits.
Yep.
It is not like, athletic recruiting in a sense that, okay, maybe we'll take the best athletes and, okay, they don't have the average GPA or test scores of another student. It's not like that for dance team, because it doesn't follow under NCAA regulations or any standardizations or rules at all. The coaches do not have any pull, for the most part, with admissions. So you are applying just like every other student, and you've got to get in. So it doesn't matter if you are the best dancer in the world. If you can't get into the college on your own merits, you're not going to make the team. You're not going to have the opportunity to try out for that team.
Yeah. And I don't think that many parents understand that point. So I appreciate you making that. Is, if it's an NCAA school, they think that the dance program falls under the NCAA, and it does not. So the coach may love you. The coach may think that you're the next best, star of their team or standout performer, or you're a necessity for who they need as far as their ensemble, but they can't really push on admissions. Admissions still needs to recruit you.
And that's another thing, is we talk about things, getting recruited earlier in the dance team side. Your grades better look pretty good in 9th and 10th grade, right? You're not given a lot of, leeway, because there's a kind of a pipeline that's building in some of these elite dance teams, where they're looking at the 9th and 10th grader, and they're looking at your grades at that point and saying, okay, are you even in the realm of possibility of attending our school?
Right.
So it's important to kind of assess where you're at academically as much as where you're at.
I'm going to be recording an episode in the future here with another counselor whose specialty is talking about how 8th and 9th grade really impacts your future success. So, I know that for some of my teenagers, especially my teenage boys, sometimes the light turns on a little bit later. So we may have to go through a different process if academically those early years of high school are not where they should be. So yes, your classes matter. I don't care, how great of a dancer you are, your classes still matter. So parents, make your kids do their homework. Yes, dance is fun and they love going to dance, but they also still need to do their homework. So
yep, for sure. And it shows up too in their college applications and their essays. Like if they, tested them, pushed themselves academically, that's going to show up in those essays as well.
Yeah. Well, Kathy, I wanted to really also invite you on to talk about this new incredible book that you are just about to release and send out to the world here, The Recruitable Dancer. Obviously, this can be purchased through your website, and I'm sure it's going to be coming to other venues as well. So let's talk about, this book is going to be launched now in November of 2025. What inspired you to write this book? Where did this come from?
I thought, as I work with more and more dancers, and I will say my 2 daughters that grew up dancing ended up dancing on the Wake Forest University dance team. It's a D1 program. They competed at UDA Nationals. Their team ended up making the finals. So through their experience, I've learned a lot about the challenges of this process, both in trying to get on the team and also once you get on the team and what to expect, but also through the dancers that I'm advising. And as this particular path is constantly evolving. Every year it's something new. Every year there's a different component to it. And so it's very challenging for families to navigate this and figure out what's going on. Like I said, there's no rule book, there's no playbook that you turn to and say, this is how you get on a college dance team. So I decided to write it. So it just seemed like a necessary tool to make sure that dancers had the right perspective and the right mindset going into it. Again, I call it the shiny object syndrome. It's they see on social media these fantastic dance teams that get millions of views on their TikTok and Instagram accounts, and they're like, I want to do that.
Yep.
But it goes back to let's make sure you're doing this for the right reasons, going to the right school for the right reasons, making sure the team is going to be a good fit for you. And I just didn't see any resources out there. There's just a lot of information. You can go on Facebook groups and get all kinds of information from people you don't know. But I wanted a resource that people could pick up and figure out how to approach it from both the college admissions standpoint and how to prepare for that, but also the dance team side as well, and how to engage in high school and start looking at to what extent you want to participate in recruitment and looking at those highly selective teams. But again, pointing out that there's a right fit for everybody, both on the academic side and the dance team side. If you've only had a couple of years of dance training, I could still find you a team that's going to be happy to welcome you. So that's what the book is for, is to give dancers, parents, studio owners, dance teachers, high school coaches, an overall perspective, because I don't know that if I talked to a dance studio owner, they would have the same perspective as perhaps a college counselor. So it's pulling it all together and saying, okay, here are all the considerations.
Yeah, there's a lot of aspects that are involved in the recruitment process of a dancer. And I think you writing this down really helps kind of come up with, for lack of a better phrase, a playbook to help students and parents kind of go, okay, what are the things we all need to be thinking about? Because as you said, there's a lot of moving parts. You need to figure out about your own personal dance assessment, what type of dance areas you want to go into. Do you want to do a multi-major, multi-minor? What type of college fit is for you? So there's a lot of things going on, and this is more complex than just say, hey, I want to go to college. So when you're wanting to get recruited for a specialty, in this case, dance, there's going to be extra layers to this, and it's going to take a longer time. I always get a little nervous when families contact me at the beginning of senior year, and they go, yep, my student wants to be a dancer or wants to do fine and performing arts. What do we do? And I'm going, it's the beginning of senior year. Like, this is going to be a mad dash sprint to find stuff because there's audition cycles, there's application deadlines, there's a lot going on. So if we can help students and families start this process earlier and understand all of the facets of it, it's going to reduce the stress and the anxiety and really help students, parents, and dance professionals and coaches understand this process a little bit better. As you said, I think dance studios who help send kids off to college could also really benefit from this type of book and information, so that, because that's not their expertise. They don't know admissions. They don't know how this process works from the other side. So this is a great resource for them to kind of see it from the holistic standpoint of this college journey.
Right. Exactly. I think it's important that we try to take some of the pressure off of these kids as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know that when you're looking at it from one perspective, you see the whole picture.
Yeah.
So, we can talk about how the kid taking the AP classes gets loaded up with homework. The dance studio owner, throws in extra practices because they've got a competition coming up. The kids on the college or on the high school dance team, and they've got a game that week, and so we're having an extra. It all adds up, and it adds anxiety and stress to these kids. And I think it's important just take into consideration that we need to make sure that we're doing what we can to give them the opportunity to be successful in what they're doing and not overloading them. And I will say part of this goes back to the parents as well, is understanding, there is limits to how hard we can push these kids. So this is, again, written for the parents as well, so that they can start evaluating, are the kids getting enough sleep? Are they getting the right nutrition?
Right.
They're athletes.
Right.
So that's part of it too.
I will literally, if I see a student who seems really tired, I literally will cancel their appointment and say, you need to go sleep. Like, that's more important than talking to me right now. Kathy, I'm super excited to check out your book coming out, The Recruitable Dancer, available November 2025, coming out really in the near future here. So I'm excited to check this out. I am not a dance expert. Obviously, I have a fine and performing arts background, so this is going to be a great resource for me as I help students and parents navigate the recruitment process to be a dancer. So The Recruitable Dancer by Kathy Hain DeYoung, coming out soon. Excited.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're not quite finished just yet, because I want to give you an opportunity to have your soapbox moment. So
Okay.
I want you to help share with us one or two things that you wish that every student and parent could know. So if you could get on a megaphone and send a message to all of the dance moms and the students and everyone out there in this kind of field, what would you share with them?
I think the most important thing is that every individual has their own path to college or not. And it's important for them to explore their options, understand what those options are, have opportunities to dive in, get acquainted, have experiences. They're going to inform them about how they want to approach college, and in this case, dance. There is no one way, right? I think a lot of people want to be told, these are the 5 steps that your kid has to take. You follow these 5 steps and they're going to, be set up for life. That's not how it works. And so I think a lot of it becomes, allowing them to have this discovery phase in 8th, 9th, 10th grade. It's not about a prescription. It's about a road of discovery, and allowing them to find the level of dance that they want to do. You can have a very successful career with dance, and it doesn't have to be, I'm going to the top dance program in the country. So I encourage parents and teachers to help students explore the opportunities that are available to them. Certainly seek out help from others to, guide them along that journey, but, allow them the time to explore and not necessarily fill their schedule with every single thing that they could possibly do to help them get into college or in a dance program, because every journey is going to be a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for being my guest today and helping us really explore the world of dance and how that process happens through admissions and everything else that students, parents, and dance instructors need to be thinking about. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today, but fear not, we will be back next week with more tips and tricks to help you conquer the college application process like a boss. Until then, remember, don't chuck it up.